Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die Radio. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. On this very special episode, we are lucky to have two great guests, Dr. Elisa Medhus and intuitive medium Emanuelle McIntosh. Dr. Medhus, a physician and mother of five, has practiced internal medicine in Houston, Texas for over 30 years and is the creator of the well-known blog Channeling Erik. Dr. Medhus and her son Erik share their journeys in the books My Son and the Afterlife, Conversations from the Other Side, and My Life After Death, a memoir from heaven. In addition to her two books with Erik, Dr. Medhus is also the author of three award-winning parenting books. Emanuelle is coming to us from Belgium today, and she's an intuitive medium, spiritual life coach, and meditation teacher. And along with her husband, they run a spiritual center teaching people self-healing and the path to peace and happiness through spiritual awareness. And I'm not going to say too much more because their story is so fascinating, and I want them to share it in their own words. And we'll introduce you to Erik on the show today also. To visit their sites, you can go to channelingerik.com. That's the blog, and EmanuelleMcIntosh.com. And as always, you can visit WeDon'tDieRadio.com, and you can find all the links that we may be talking about today, the Facebook groups, etc., and so forth. So Dr. Medhus and Emanuelle, a warm, warm welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm a part of it.
Super glad. I've had many of my listeners send me private messages to have you on the show, and I'm just extremely grateful that it now is the perfect time to connect. Really great. Dr. Medhus, maybe you can start with some of the story here, because it is a very interesting and unique story. Maybe a little bit about your background, about your family, about Erik, what happened, and how this whole magnificent, miraculous world began.
Well, it started out kind of in a rocky way, unfortunately. My son took his life a few years back, and it was very difficult for me because I was raised by atheists. I wasn't an atheist. I was more of an agnostic, but I just didn't know how to answer that question. Is my son still around? I was absolutely lost. Furthermore, being a physician, I'm raised in the world of science. So for me, for something to be real, it had to be perceived by, one of the senses, or, at least measured with an instrument. So that made it even worse for me. But then about 3 days after Erik died, I get a call from my militantly atheist father. Okay, like his first words to me after Erik died were, "Sorry, Lisa, Erik's going to turn to dust." That was his first words after I said that Erik died. He is not a very warm-hearted person. Anyway, so he called me and said, "Elisa, I don't know what to believe. I was sitting in my chair, and all of a sudden Erik appears before me, and then he turns into his little boy self and crawls up into my lap. I don't know what to believe. I'm so startled." So, and this is, again, not a warm-hearted guy, so he would not have made this up to make me feel better, okay? And so I started reading every book I could on quantum physics, near-death experiences, afterlife just any stories on conscious survival, controlled studies on mediums, everything I could. And then I ran out of stuff to read. So I decided to do what a lot of parents do, mostly out of desperation. I decided to go ahead and try to contact Erik through a medium. Mm-hmm. Now, if you had asked me what a medium was, like before that, it would have conjured up this image of a gypsy hunched over a crystal ball. I had no idea what they were capable of. So I call I make an appointment with Jamie Butler, and she didn't know anything about me except my credit card number and my name. That's it. And she was able to describe. Oh my God, the dogs are barking.
I didn't know which side the dogs are barking. That's okay.
Let me text my daughter to get them.
They're excited.
No, there's something going on outside. Anyway, so where was I?
Decide to see Jamie Butler, talk to Jamie
Oh yeah,
Butler, who only had your
and
credit card number.
she didn't. Yeah, she didn't know anything about me and or Eric, and she said, "Well, your son is here," and he said he took his life, and she went on to describe exactly the type of gun he used, where he was sitting, the
Wow.
clothes he was wearing, and even shared the colorful language he engages in sometimes, which made her blush.
Wow.
Maybe I should let Emma go on, and I'll put the dogs up. They were supposed to be up already. You want me to do that and
Why
let Emma?
not? Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Yeah,
So we start with Elisa.
yeah. Well, it's great, and so obviously you're not the first medium that she contacted.
True. Mediums are being contacted, really, the way I hear it, all over the world by Erik. So he's definitely decided to conquer the world with his knowledge and with his teachings.
Wow, it's so exciting to me just to hear it, because although I don't know too much of the story, and I'm excited to have you share. Obviously, her first reading with Jamie Butler, it sounded really profound. And I did not realize that Erik is contacting others.
He is. He is. For me, I really had never heard of channeling Erik, and I had never. I didn't really lose a person that was close and dear to me. So for me, I mean, it all started when I was a little girl. Where I noticed that I was very sensitive to energy, and I always felt different than everybody else. I always felt like I didn't fit into this world. But I had come to a point in my life where I had been working a dead-end job for a very long time, and I felt unappreciated, and I felt like I was stuck and I couldn't get anywhere in this world, no matter what I tried. And believe me, I tried a lot of things. In this world to find my way, to find a way to be comfortable and peaceful. And it just wasn't working out for me. And I had been doing readings for people and friends, just on the side, just for fun. And a lot of the things that I said, 90% of the information, they could verify, which was amazing to me. And then the other percentage, came later on, several months later. Hey, remember that thing you said? Well, it just happened. So for me, that was really cool. I thought it was cool. However, I never thought, I'm going to become a medium. It was just for fun. It was just for fun for me, and a way to take away, helping people makes me feel good. So it took away the attention of me not feeling good about me in this life.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything better you can do than to help someone through the grieving process and reconnect them with a loved one.
Exactly. It really gives you a sense that
Are you here, Emma?
Did we lose her? I think Erik's been messing with us.
Are you still there?
Oh, yeah, she's here. She's here.
Hey,
Doctor,
we're experiencing life. This dog barking and all that.
Oh,
my dogs never bark like that. But there's some huge party going on outside. I don't know why this early in the morning, but yeah, that's life, guys.
Can we get back to your story, Elisa, about your first interaction with Jamie Butler, and then we can get Emma back in.
So I was really amazed, and I kept having sessions along this about the same time all this was happening. We experienced all sorts of phenomena with Erik. He would turn on faucets while we were just standing there watching, not just a drip, I mean all the way. He would turn deadbolts. Airsoft BBs would materialize at the ceiling and drop to the floor a couple of times. And then there was one incident where every time my husband came through the door from the garage to the kitchen, the downdraft vent that sucks up all the smoke from when my cooking is burning, it goes up and down every time, like it was saying hi. But the thing was, we were remodeling our kitchen, so it was totally gutted of power. There was no power supplied to the downdraft vent. He would turn blenders on. One time, he even called me on the telephone. I was on the couch working on my computer, which is pretty much all I do all day practically. And all of a sudden the phone starts ringing, and I was very annoyed because it kept ringing, and I knew it was a robocall because I figured it was because it was campaign season.
Right.
And oh God, it wouldn't stop. And finally it picked up, and there was Erik saying, "It's me, Mom. Erik, it's me."
Wow.
And I flew to the phone, did not get it in time. But the weird thing is it didn't leave a message, and my answering machine picks up every message. Plus it was a 12-digit number. When I called that number, it was not a working number. And then there was one time when I was getting ready to go to sleep. I was about to lay my head down on the pillow when there was Erik jumping from one side of the bed to the next like a bunny rabbit. And my sister Denise, who passed away before him, was sitting at the left foot of the bed just looking at him and grinning. And I was following him, going back and forth, and saying, I know I'm not asleep. I didn't even get a chance to lay my head down. And all of a sudden he looks at me and looks shocked and says, "Mom, you can see me." Then he comes into my arm and we hug, and it felt so cool. It felt absolutely solid and real.
Wow.
And
so
then
powerful.
I know. And then there was one time when we were walking, one of my daughters, Michelle, was following me as I was walking toward his room. And she was very connected with Erik. She felt his presence, so she picked up a camera that was on a table in the hallway and started snapping pictures. And then when we looked at the pictures afterwards, we could see one of them was this very bright orb with this long comet tail as if it were moving.
Mm.
So let me just back up and say, all during this time, anything that would happen like this, after some time, doubt would creep in.
Of course.
I just couldn't believe 100% until a couple of things happened. I just couldn't believe it because I think I was just afraid, because what if I did believe it and find out it was all nonsense?
Right.
That would be like losing Erik again, but forever this time. So I just couldn't put myself at that 100% mark until a couple of things happened. One was we had that orb analyzed by two professional photographers, experts in photography analysis. And they did certain things like, I don't know what this means, but taking the gamma down and all that. And they came to the conclusion that orb was its own light source. And you could even see it emanating light on the nearby banister, for example. And then another time was when a blog member called me and said, "Elisa, in one of your interviews, your YouTubes, I hear voices." And I said, "Well, it can't be because it was just Jamie and me." So, but I listened to the timestamps, and sure enough, there were 3 different voices, and one of them was definitely my son. I know my son's voice. I would even play it to our housekeeper who helped raise Erik since she was 18. Said, "Who do you think this is?" "It's Erik." So we had that analyzed too, and the sound expert decided that the voices were not human for many reasons, much of which I do not understand. But the main reason is they did not leave a voice print. So once I had that, being ever the skeptic, that brought me to 100% sure, and I'm never going to doubt it again, ever. And now, Erik, and he may on this call, who knows, leaves his voice on a lot of radio shows. Like there was one, I had one interview on a radio show, and the host called me a couple of days later, said, "Elisa, there's a voice that we didn't hear during the interview." And I listened, and it's Erik saying "minions" really loudly. I mean, without a doubt. And then you hear Jamie saying, laughing and saying he's calling them minions. And this is, again, something we only heard on the recording, not live. So he's done that several times. Like he said, pushing her. And then Jamie says he's going to push you to the to the host.
I've done enough recordings of EVP, electronic voice phenomena, and know that after a recording takes place, our deceased loved ones can step in and then manipulate the recordings. So whether he's
Exactly.
doing it live and we don't hear it, or he's manipulating the thing after, it'll be really fun to listen after and just see. But
Yeah.
it sure sounds like you have one powerful son, and gives great hope that anything's possible. But I want to ask Elisa, when did he start coming through, like channeling? It's one thing to get a message from a medium; it's a whole nother thing to have, I would say, your son talking through the mouth of a
Oh.
medium, right?
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
happening?
That happened the first time that I. Let's see. Was that the first time? Well, there are two that I don't know which came first.
That's okay.
One was my friend Robert. We met through channeling Erik. He was really scared to contact me because he didn't want to impose. But Erik, he's a medium. Erik kept bugging him to contact me, and so he finally did. And I said, "Let's talk on the phone." And we talked for a long time. And I decided, he needed to be part of my family, and he comes over every other Friday for a family get together. Well, one time we went out to dinner as a family. We came home. He said, "I'm really tired." And he lay down on the couch. We went outside in the backyard to sit and talk. And then he comes out with this strange look on his face. I thought he was mad at me or something.
Mm-hmm.
And his arms were crossed. And he goes, "Mom, it's me." And just the way he crossed his arms. This was something I've never seen Robert do. That was Erik. So typical. So I went to hug him, and then Robert was like, "What's going on?" He woke up. And then the time that may have happened around the same time was Jamie at one of the Channeling Erik events it was in Atlanta, her Love and Light Center. And it's really cool to see Erik trans-channeled and my husband agrees too. When you hug Erik in the body of another person, it feels much firmer, harder. Jamie was rather soft feeling when you hug her, but when Erik entered her body, then it just the facial expressions, the mannerisms, everything is all Erik.
Wow. I always remember the scene in the movie Ghost when Patrick Swayze steps into Whoopi Goldberg's. She was a
Yeah.
medium, and they're able to talk and hug, kiss Demi Moore's character. And then I got a great opportunity to take a trance mediumship course at the famous Arthur Findlay College and saw some of this direct speaking. People stepping into the energy of the medium and speaking. And even your story right now, I just have goosebumps just to think, to know that this is possible.
Well, Emma's is wonderful with trans-channeling Erik.
Yeah, so Emma, how did Erik first come to you?
Well, like I said, I was in a bad situation with work, and I always felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I had always been interested in the spiritual, and I'd always felt like I was being watched. And my dad was doing card readings and things like that. So it wasn't something that that was taboo where I grew up.
Great.
And so they had offered me a new position at my work, and I had this feeling that they're not going to give it to me, or they're going to screw me over somehow. And I told my husband, if this doesn't work out after all these years, that is a sign that I need to do something else. And I think it was the same day, my husband and I had been looking into Buddhism, and we had been looking into being mindful, following mindfulness courses. We went to see Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Zen Buddhist master here in Bordeaux. And we did that because we weren't feeling good. We weren't in the right place, and we wanted to be peaceful. So we learned to meditate and things like that. And I was looking online, and I was not looking for anything spiritual, but all of a sudden on YouTube, Erik's interview pops up with Siddhartha, with Buddha. And and Jamie. And I was like, oh, that might be interesting. I had never seen a medium talk to a famous person. I had never really encountered it like that. And so I thought, okay, well, let's just see what it is. It might just be all fake. That's what my first idea was. It's probably all fake, but let's just see what it says. And I watched a video, and it felt so real and so true to me that I was completely in shock after that interview. And I went to my husband and I said, you got to watch this. This is incredible. I don't know what it is, but I feel amazing about this. And he started watching it, and he's like, oh my God, yeah, that's not fake. And so we started watching more and more videos. And I think a week later we were meditating. And we meditated for about 2 hours a day by then.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, this young man pops up. Now, they had been talking about Erik, and I had just seen the videos, but I didn't really know what he looked like or who he was as a person. So this young man pops up, and he's going, hey, it's me, Erik. I was like, okay, hello.
Yes.
I was a little bit in shock.
Yes.
During my meditation, I had never seen a person before. You know, I would go to my Zen place and I would do my mantras and stuff, but I had never really had a person come up to me and go, hey, what's up? And he just looked at me, and the first thing he said was, I love you, but you need to get the F out of this job because you are denying your own abilities and you are denying your own path. And I was like, I had no idea what he was talking about. So, and he just poofed away. So I woke up from my meditation, and the next day he came back, and he said, as soon as this job fails, you need to go and help people. It is your journey to help people. You definitely need to, he says, use your past to change the future, is what he said. And I had to think about that for a little bit. And when I woke up, my husband said, I saw him too. So apparently he had visited with my husband as well. Wow. And he said, he had told him, you're going to need to support her in this because otherwise she will not have the courage to continue this journey. And my husband's always been my support. He's always been the one who pushes me to follow my dreams because I was a very fearful person. I was raised with a lot of fear, and in my past caused a lot of fear inside of me. I was raped by my grandfather for years.
Oh, sorry.
And so a lot of instability was caused because of that. A lot of fear, a lot of self-hate was a result of that, and a lot of hiding of who I really was and hiding from people as well. So it really traumatized me, but I did overcome it on my own. I never received any help. I am very proud of that I did all of that by myself. And so I started to understand, okay, I need to use that in order to connect to people and to help people. And I started analyzing myself. I started really focusing on myself. And I started to understand that the reason my predictions were so spot on is because I could easily recognize all the feelings. Because every emotion has a frequency, an energetic frequency, and I could pick up on those because I had been through almost every emotion you could possibly think of. You know, I had been through suicide thoughts, and I had been through depression, and I had been through self-hate, and, everything you could possibly think of, and fear and anxiety. So I just he started helping me in realizing that. And so he also helped my husband. And my husband is a very visual thinker. So it was really easy for him to visualize himself next to Erik. And he helped him in learning to leave his body while he was meditating, and things like that. And one day I was on Facebook, and Erik tells me, say hi to my mom. And I was like, she's too busy. There's probably a million people who bother her. I don't want to bother her. And he goes, no. You need to say hi. And I said, okay. So I said hi. And Elisa and I just started chatting a little bit. And I think there was a day where we were talking about things. And Elisa said, hey, maybe you should come on as a guest speaker. And that'll be a lot of fun. And I was... I have to say, Lisa, I was terrified. I almost peed my pants when you asked
Oh,
me that. I had never done anything like that. I had never even, I mean, all my readings were for people that I knew, it was not for
The world
people,
now.
the
Yeah.
world. And even a video recording, that was, never done that before either. So I was terrified, and Erik
you
kept
didn't seem
yelling at me.
nervous at all. You seem
I know, but I
calm,
was.
fully collected. You did
He
great.
just kept yelling at me, effing do it, effing do it. I
I'm
was
sure he
like,
didn't say effing, guys.
no, he
You
just
know what he
curved a
said?
lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it shows a lot of his personality. But when did he start speaking through you? And I'm interested, does your conscious mind hear what he's saying through your mouth? Or are you more in like a trance state?
I don't know. He always tells me that I'm very unique, and the way that he explained, because it's really hard for me. I don't know how other mediums work for me. I've never followed a class. I've never done anything, so I
That's
really don't
okay.
have I don't have a clue. But the way that he explains it is that when I communicate to spirit, I actually allow them into my personal energy field, and I merge together with their energy, so we become one. And they then communicate to me in energy, and that energy then gets translated in thoughts, in pictures, and in emotions. And what my body automatically does is, he says, is I put all those puzzle pieces together really quickly, and that's how the conversations come out. So I am fully present when I do any reading. However, I do notice that when I'm doing a reading, it's almost like things start speeding up. And I start talking, and I can't stop. And, I'll look at the clock, and an hour has passed, and I haven't stopped talking, and I have no idea what I've all been saying, although I am fully aware that I'm there, and I'm talking, and this information just comes out. So I am present, but at the same time, I allow them to fully come through in their own way. And people have said, "Oh my God, your hand movements are just like my grandmother's,"
Oh,
or
that's so sweet.
accents will come out. I'll start talking different accents, and then the complete trance channeling, I'm not so used to yet. I think the first time we tried it was with Elisa and some of our friends, very privately, and that was the very first time where it actually succeeded to step out completely and to allow him in. And then I had my last channeling Erik event in Belgium, where we did it for a second time, but it's still. That is very energetically draining. It really feels like you're beating, like I've been hit in the head with a hammer afterwards.
Awful.
It is. It's not very comfortable. But he says it's going to get better with the more and more practice, because it's all about my body needs to learn to adjust to the frequency of him. Because when they come into your body, they actually change the frequency of your cells. They change the energetic vibration of your cells. And so your body has to adjust to something that it's not used to that high frequency. And it's that's why you're a little whacked up afterwards.
Yeah, I've talked to trance mediums and physical mediums, and that's one of the side effects, is it being really draining. And they are manipulating your frequency, your energy field, all that stuff. And to me, it's fascinating. And after that course I took in trance in the Arthur Findlay College, it's very rare, and that what you do, the channeling, and it's not that others can't do it, but a lot of people have not allowed themselves to step into it. So I think 2018 and beyond, it'll be the time that I think more people will go for it, because what a gift it is, not just to hear a message that your son's here and this is what he says, but actually to get the mom, dad, the heart-to-heart communication. So
I remember when Jamie first trans-channeled Erik. She was sitting on a chair in front of the audience, small group, and when he totally went in her body, he saw me and ran in a way that he used to run anytime he's about to come into my arms and cry. When he was alive. That's how he did it. He would be sort of leaning a little forward with his head cocked to the side a bit and looking down and run. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Jamie requires anybody, any spirit who enters her body to leave it in better shape than when they went in. So that's sort of
that's pretty cool.
A pact that they make.
Yeah.
And also she had to set up some rules for Erik, because he would get in the body and start fondling her, oh wow, these nice boobs and things like that, and and then afterwards, the next trans channeling, well, I was told I was not to touch these, and he points to her breasts. So,
talk about keeping our same personality when we cross over. And he sounds like he's got quite the sense of humor. But I want to ask, and I don't know if Erik's the one to answer or how he'd even go about that, but just a little bit about. Oh gosh, I don't want to say what the dying process is like, but there's so many of us who have lost a loved one and are just looking for hope that not only are they still around, but whether you call it heaven or the afterlife, that it's an okay place to be, and maybe even touch a little bit about suicide, because I know it's a tough conversation, but some people hit an all-time low, and it looks like that's the best way out.
Well, if you read my Erik's book, My Life After Death, he gives a very, very fascinating description of the death process, the crossing over, the visiting of the funeral, what heaven is like in great detail, what their emotions and senses are like, what their day-to-day life is like as a spirit, and so on. But Erik, he's probably chomping at the bit to talk. He's been uncharacteristically quiet.
He's saying, "No, Mom, I'm just allowing you to tell you your story."
Yeah. Well, I'm willing. This is a new one for me on the show, but I think all of us are willing to say hello to Erik and have a dialogue. So welcome, Erik.
He's saying hello.
Hi, Erik. I love you.
I love you too, Mama, very, very much. You know that, and I love everyone. The thing is, so many people are afraid of death, but really, we should be more afraid of being born. Dying is such a peaceful process. A lot of people think dying is painful, or, people, let me explain this way. I think the fear of death doesn't really come from the exact part of dying, but I think it comes from the part that they don't know where they're going. They don't know when it's going to happen, or they don't know how. And I think a lot of people are more afraid of suffering than they really are of dying itself. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I can guarantee you that no matter in any situation, no matter how you die, whether you are murdered, whether you are committing suicide, whether you are having an illness, whether you are hit by a car, right before death steps into the body, you are already out of the body. Okay, so there is never a process. The transition itself, you will have already left the body before death sets in. So there's never a moment of pain in the transition. Okay, the pain is either before death, and let's just say that life is painful. It's just part of the journey. It's part of the contrast that we need in order to expand and in order to grow. But death itself is really, it's just a transformation. It's just like a butterfly. You're just coming out of your cocoon and you're going home. That's basically what it's like. Now, how your transition will always be determined about how your belief system is, what you think your death will look like. People don't understand or realize always that it is our mindset, it is the power of the consciousness that creates the experience right after death. You will always attract a death experience according to your beliefs. So let's say you believe that that you're going through a tunnel of light, and at the end of the tunnel there is God, and there are family members waiting for you, well, then that is what you'll experience. If you believe that when you die, there's nothing, there's just darkness, there's blackness, and everything is gone, well, then you will experience that darkness for a little bit, until you start realizing that, hey, it might be all dark here, but why am I still thinking? Why do I still have thoughts? And when that realization kicks in, then you'll start like, maybe I should start walking around and see what else is out here. And that's how you get to the realization that there is life after death. And then your angels, your guides, your spiritual team, whatever you want to call them, your soul group, they will come in and say, hey, you ready to go home now? So really, the fear of death is not necessary at all. And it is such a peaceful moment when you come into a place where there's no more guesswork, and there is no more fear, and there's no more anxieties, and there's no more unclarity. Everything seems to make sense, and everything seems to have a plan, and you start realizing, the life that I thought was so complicated really wasn't as complicated as I thought it was. It's about understanding. When we cross over, we start seeing the blueprints in our own design, because life is your own design. It always will be. It is not God's plan on what you want to experience or where you want to go or what you want to do in this life. It is your plan. Your plan only. And so when you are the creator of your life, then you're also the creator of your death process. And so in anything that we do, whether it is on this earth, whether it is in the afterlife, it will always be your choice, and it will always be free will, and it will always be with unconditional love, and with the only he said the only goal that we really have here on earth or in the other dimensions is growing, learning, experiencing, and expanding. That's it. That's what it's all about. And it really comes with, let's just say that it comes in all colors, and it comes from all directions. A human life is one of the hardest lives. Why? Because it's a condition, we'll just call it a condition, he says. It's a condition where we are the furthest separated from source, where we feel so disconnected from everything that we really are. So that's why this life as a human being is confusing, is complicated, because we don't feel connected. But as soon as we make that connection, as soon as we create that understanding, you'll start recognizing and remembering feelings, intuitive encounters that, hey, I've seen this before. That seems familiar. Okay, what this person is saying is so resonating with me right now. And you will attract more and more information. And when we do that, then we go back to being connected. We go back to who we are. And when we connect our true energetic self with the physical self, that's when we find balance in a human existence. And that's why most people are here as well. We learn, we grow, we experience so many different things, but it all comes to the same thing. It all comes to self-love, self-exploration, and self-achievement. That's where it all comes up to, just in all different ways and forms. So understanding that we are all going through the same trouble, and that we are all growing through similar growth processes, that means that we're all connected as well.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Don't want to interrupt because you're on a roll, but
yeah, he goes fast.
That's right.
Oh my God, he's a fast talker.
I like him. There's a lot of suffering that we have. There's suffering, when we wake up in the morning, we have this many of us have this negative mind that's right there. And I can only assume in the mind of somebody who takes their own life that negative mind is speaking so loudly. But Erik, does that negative voice continue after you cross over? Or is that ego self, that negative voice, does that disappear and you're reconnected with who you are?
Great question.
Well, he says for me, it immediately faded. It immediately, because I knew before I took my life, when I was at that desk, um, anything is better than this. That was my belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Anything is better than this. So I knew that whatever was going to come was going to be better. It was going to be more peaceful, and I was going to be happier. And so that is what happened as soon as I crossed over. That negative voice, that feeling of not being understood, not fitting in, self-hate and self-loathing at certain times, all of that faded away from me really quickly. Now, that can be different for different people. There are sometimes spirits, entities who do need some counseling, who do need some guidance afterwards. But I can tell you that for all of them, that really deep fear or that deep, deep feeling of feeling worthless and feeling disconnected does fade away really quickly.
Let me ask you a quick question, Erik, just because I don't know why I've never asked you this. Before you took your life,
mm-hmm.
Did you believe that there was something after?
I believed that I didn't believe in God, but I believed that there must be something.
Okay.
There must be something, and whatever it is, it's going to be better than this.
So you didn't believe that you might just go to blackness in a state of non-existence? Oh,
no.
That makes me feel better. But I remember that you also shared that for a while, things were just so wonderful, and the unconditional love was so amazing that you kept wondering when the other shoe was going to drop, right?
Yeah, it's and that's where the guidance and the counseling comes
mm-hmm.
in, you know, and that's what I went through as well. But in the moment of transition, and there's this feeling of peace. There's this feeling of burdens that just kind of drop off of you, you know, almost like a little bit of hysteria in a very positive way. There's this relief feeling.
Like a euphoria? Like a euphoria?
Yeah, a little bit of a euphoria feeling. However, as you start to realize, okay, there's my body. I'm here.
I'm still alive.
Yeah, I'm still here and I feel good. As soon as you kind of go into that, a lot later on, because a lot of times you'll first get the feeling or the urge to be with your family, to support them, to guide them a little bit and just to let them know, hey, I'm okay. But after that, when you really go into your life's review, when you really go into meeting the team that was around you and meeting everyone and trying to understand what is going on, because it is a process. It is a process that you have to kind of accustom back to a new way of being. You kind of have to shed off that human-like conditioning that we have. And in that, you do get counseling, and you really go deeper into why you responded in certain ways to certain events in your life, or why you felt this way, or where all these emotions came from. And you really go deeper into that because you're still, in some way or form, you're still holding on to very deep-rooted fears and habits that we have encountered during our lifetime, that we have collected during our human lifetime. And that's when the counseling comes in. That's when, for me, it was an angel, but it could be family members as well. It really depends from person to person. So yes, you do feel instantly better. However, later on, when you get your life's review, when you get all the insights, there is certain deep-rooted issues that do need to be dealt with, and that usually comes with understanding them, with getting an overview and an insight inside yourself. Because when you're in that negative state, when you're in that state of feeling completely lost, feeling completely separated from everything and everybody around you. No matter how many people love you, no matter how many people support you, you can get into a state where you feel completely alone because nobody truly understands what you're going through. And when you get that insight in everything, it really comes with the understanding of yourself, because in that moment on earth, you can't do soul searching like that anymore because you get a twisted view of everything that's going on around you because of these negative emotions. So there is some healing later on, but everything, it really is at your own pace. You are completely supported. There is no judgment, people. I want to state this very clearly. I don't recommend anyone to commit suicide because you are here on earth to, you chose this for yourself. So we might as well make the best of it. You chose this for yourself.
I'd like to ask about that, Erik, because you sure do paint a lovely picture of death and the afterlife. So can you tell people out there who may have suicidal thoughts why they should go ahead and stick around for the human experience?
Great question. Thank you.
Well, he's saying mostly do it for you. You chose this journey for a really good reason, and you chose these lessons that you're going through for a really good reason. Sometimes, I have to say, sometimes suicide is part of a contract, but a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it is about not being on the right track, not being on your path. And then the further we go away from who we truly are, the further, we feel disconnected and we just don't see any happiness possible for us. So why do you need to stick around? Why do you need to not make that decision? Well, the only person I can say is it's for you. It's not for the people around you because we're here to live and experience an individual experience. Everybody lives in their own reality. Now, let's say you are in that situation where you really don't know what to do anymore. You really don't see any positivity coming your way and you don't know how to change it. My advice to everybody out there is when you're in that place, that means that you are completely off or completely removed, he says, from your true self, from your true nature. Whenever we feel bad, that means that something isn't going according to your frequency, according to your vibration. Whenever we feel good, that means you're right on track. You're doing something that is resonating with you. You're doing something that is, he's going, I don't know that word, compiling or complying. I'm not really sure what that word means. But it's like he wants to say that it connects to your higher self, okay? Because it is your higher self who sent you here. So he's a little bit all over the place. So let me see if I can get him a little bit to slow down.
I have one more question too that I think is important when he slows down a little. Yeah.
But it just feels like what he's trying to say is, don't do it for other people, but do it for you. There is much more to experience in life if you just learn to let go of the fears and just learn to understand that this is just a temporary illusion that you are creating. So stop creating more misery onto it and start creating and visualizing and taking action into going in a complete different direction. Change your life, make decisions, not based on fear, but based on hope and based on love. And if we can do that, then we can always change everything around. The problem is, people still feel to this day that their reality is being controlled by the world outside of them, yes, by their society, by their friends, by their family, by their husband, by their love interest, whatever it is. People still feel that their life is being controlled by anything that's outside of them. But it's
But
not.
it's not.
It is completely controlled by you. However you see yourself, however you see your world, however you, everything, every thought, every word you express will create your reality. It is the law of attraction. It is understanding. I think this might be a good one. He says, in order for everyone to find their way, to find a positive way of experiencing life that is true to them, because believe me, everybody is different and everybody has different ambitions. But in order for you to experience that life that you've always wanted, that you've always dreamed of, you really have to understand that you're the creator, you're the producer, you're the writer, you're the, and you're the viewer of your own life. You create it by your mindset, by your thoughts, by your feelings, and by the words that you speak out. So become very aware of what you're saying, what you're thinking. Go back and analyze your thoughts and say, thinking negative again. Let's refocus to something positive. Eliminate the routine, because we are being raised to follow rules, to obey. That's how we're being raised. Everything is according to the rules, and everything is about what are you going to be later on when you grow up, and what success are you going to have when you grow up, and are you going to have a family when you grow up? We're already being conditioned from childhood. Not everybody's here to have a family, and not everybody's here, to work a dead-end job. It's about understanding that you're here to experience what you want. And so following your heart, following what feels good to you, following your passion, even if you don't know how you're going to turn your passion into a career, if you do what you love, let's say you start as a hobby, but if you do what you love and you put all your energy in there, then you will attract abundance and career and success in what you love. Okay, right. But it's about understanding that you need to focus on what you do want and stop focusing on what you don't want.
Erik, I have a great question, I think, is when you had your life review, did you possibly think there's so much more I can do? And that's what gave you the motivation to be in communication, and you can still make a difference with so many people globally. And did you have to learn how to do this communication? Because there's a lot of people that would love signs from their loved ones. And, is there a school that you learned it?
Well, let's just say that in my life as Erik, I have always been very compassionate, and I have always felt like I needed to help others. So it is something that has always been inside of me. After my life's review, I also started to understand and get the insight that everything I did had an impact on everyone else. And I also got the insight of how it affected them. So I started seeing and understanding that we can influence each other in a very positive way. Now, guiding people and helping people really came as natural to me. However, I did get guidance. Let's just say I studied a little bit. We do have libraries there where there is knowledge to be found. And we do share experiences with other people, with other entities who are guiding. But I did get guidance from people. I did get guidance from my angels in how to connect, in how to become a guide. But let's just say for me, it was a very natural thing. It was just an extension of who I was as Erik. Something I always wanted to do on Earth, but I never had a chance to do.
Well, and I think maybe this way you're impacting so many more people than you would have. And Suzanne Wilson in her book, Soul Smart, talks about, I think it's halls of knowledge or halls of learning. And like you say, that there are guides and libraries and ways for our loved ones to learn how to be in the earth plane and manipulate energy and do these things. So a big thank you for stepping into your power after death, physical death, and now making such a difference, because I know you have a ton of followers around the world.
Well, he says I'm the one following them around usually.
Well, yes and no. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting close to our hour mark here, and I just want to know: is there, I'd love to find out what you're doing now because we've got a couple of books. Uh, Elisa, your book, My Son in the Afterlife, Conversations from the Other Side, and then Eric's book, My Life After Death, a Memoir from Heaven. But I would love to hear just a little bit about channelingerik.com, the blog, your Facebook groups, and I'm sure there's people that want to connect more and find out more. And what's the best way to do that?
Well, the channelingerik.com, by the way, Erik is spelled with a K.
That's right.
If you join the blog, or especially if you read the book, for some reason, it's very possible or probable that you will receive a little visit or some benign, benevolent little prank from Erik. It's kind of funny. He pranks blog members all over the world in just the most fantastic ways. And we have a radio show every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Fantastic.
That I post about. I give instructions on Friday, Sunday, and then Monday morning. We also channel different notable figures. Some of Erik will sometimes give us information about the great mysteries of the world, from the Sphinx and the pyramids and Stonehenge and all that. Wow. We sometimes will channel about the spiritual basis for various diseases and conditions, and how to navigate the human life. There's a lot of topics that we cover, to say the least. And we also have an Ask Erik column on the Savannah blog and the Sedona Journal, where people, when I call out for questions around mid-month, will submit a question, and Emanuelle will answer them, and they will appear in both of those spots. So it's a regular column, and that's about it.
That is fantastic, and that you have a relationship with your son, and making such a difference on planet Earth. And I love the concept of him being part of answering some of the deepest questions we have and connecting to other souls. I think that's very cool.
Well, I would like to say to anybody who has lost a loved one that just because they've lost their body does not mean they've gone away. I mean, you can continue to have a relationship with them. And in the archives of the blog, we talk about various ways that you can do that with or without a medium. And like I say, they're just they're the same. Just no body, and perhaps none of the physical or mental illness that may have plagued them in life. And they want to continue that relationship.
That's beautiful. And they're not lost. They're still here,
they're not
just
lost.
Without bodies. And there's, I've got this visual that they're all cheering us on. And then when we close our eyes at final time here on Earth, it's like crossing a finish line, and they'll all be there to greet us and cheer us on and, welcome us home with that love.
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Emma or Erik, any closing words before we end the show?
Well, Erik just wanted to add to that, a lot of people feel, well, why would the dead connect to us, or why would they even take the time? Because it's not just about connecting to loved ones. If you need guidance in any direction, don't be afraid to ask on Jesus, or ask on Buddha, or Albert Einstein to help you, or Voltaire. There is no separation in the afterlife. He says there is no, oh my God, why would Michael Jackson come talk to me? He doesn't know me. We're all connected. We're all family up there, and we are all one. So there is no separation. So don't be afraid to connect to whoever you want to connect to, and don't ever get the feeling that you are a burden to us. Don't ever think, oh my God, I'm burdening him again. I'm asking for things again. We are there to help. We are there because we love you unconditionally, and we will always be there for you. So don't ever hesitate to ask for help, to ask for guidance, because if you put your awareness to the now, you will always and constantly receive messages from us. He says.
Wow.
Can
Erik
make sure you put your awareness to the now, though, he says. If your mind is always in the past or the future, then you will not see us or hear us. We only are present in the now. Okay, so be aware of what is going on around you at this moment, what you're doing, and that's how you will receive messages from us. Because a lot of people say, I don't receive messages. Well, that's because you're always somewhere else with your mind, and that is being in a possible future or being in a possible past. Because don't forget, time doesn't exist, and it's always changing and fluctuating. We can't get to that, because that is something that you are creating that's not in existence yet. So always bring your awareness to the now, and that's the only way you will get very clear messages in.
And can you be two places at the same time, Erik? If you start developing a following here of millions of people and you want to play
Yes.
your pranks, is it possible that part of your conscious goes over here to do one thing and goes over here
he
to do another one?
definitely.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
says he can spit himself off infinitely. So
Yes, as energy, we can change form. We can split up energy, but we're always still connected, and we're always still one person. So I can be in a million places at the same time.
That's amazing. Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you
I wish I
all.
could do that.
Someday
I would
you
love to
will.
be able to do that.
Someday you will.
I want
One
to do
day,
that
Mom.
now.
One day, Mom. Well, thank you all for being here today. And I want to remind our listener that if you want to go to channelingerik.com and even visit EmanuelleMcIntosh.com, it'll get you started on this fantastic world that I know that I want to learn more about. And there's all kinds of videos on YouTube. All kinds. And for our listener here today, thank you for spending this hour with us and investing not only your time, but your curiosity and your passion for who you are and what your life is about. As a reminder, all past episodes are available on WeDon'tDieRadio.com, where you can get a fashionable blue We Don't Die wristband that inside says, I am a divine soul, and also get a very healing audio called How to Survive Grief, and my PDF report, my new report, 19 Reasons to Believe in the Afterlife. So in closing, I want to say my name is Sandra Champlain, and I am delighted to have been your host on We Don't Die Radio. I do believe that life is an education for the soul and that your life here on earth is important. And in the words of Erik, we must be here in the now. Our loved ones can get through, and I believe miracles and magic can happen when we're in the present moment, not thinking about the past, not stewing about the future, but being in the now. So I want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.